Welcome to the Bases Project, and we're at the famous Cane Hill locks in Devizes, which are, I think, one of the longest race of locks. If I get out of the way, see, they go way up into the top. See that? Mm-hmm. And that goes up the escarpment onto Salisbury Plain. So I'm actually at the top of that in Devizes. It's where the flat part of the Salisbury Plain is, and that's where Milk Hill and all the famous fields are where the crop circles happen. Awesome. So this is, a lot of people use this as a wedding photograph thing, whatever. So we know somebody called Maria Wheatley.
Luckily, to our great honor.
Absolutely. Actually, that's right. But don't let her know that. She gets such a big, she gets really pretentious and thinks she's got some kind of right to speak on behalf of all women in megalithomania land. And, you know the way these showbiz types. Oh, sorry, we're recording this. Oh, I should. Oh, boy. Oh, sorry, Maria. Anyway, just to start things off, I have got this beautiful device that you made. And isn't
it gorgeous?
It is gorgeous. Not as gorgeous as you, but it is. And it's actually got there's white crystal in the middle there. Is that right?
Yes.
And are those black crystals, or are they what?
So it's Brazilian quartz. There's Herkimer diamond in between the black tourmaline. So that's really good for.
Right. You can see that there. Is that what that is? Mm-hmm. And then there's this amazing thing at the bottom.
Well, that's just to make, that's just part of the recipe.
Yeah. And the rest of it is solid gold, is that right?
Yeah, gold leaf.
Gold leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very nice. And you've got a sort of a bubbling sort of thing there. Is that, remember, this was put in upside down. Is that right? That's how you mold it?
Yes. I do it upside down. So you've got trapped air, eternally trapped air from this time, which is great.
My God. Better not let Richard Attenborough get hold of that, otherwise he'll make some dinosaurs.
Let's just remember that we're breathing the same air that was ever there.
Hold on there. So you're you're telling me that you're breathing the same air that was never there, always there.
Always there.
Always there.
You mentioned the dinosaurs, so it's the same air. Maybe it's filtered, but it's the same air.
Filtered.
Maybe.
Wow. It's amazing.
Filtered through a plant, maybe.
So,
like water filters. Anyway.
Okay, we talked about Maria. Actually, while we're lifting pyramids up, oh God, these are some I've had for quite some time. Oh God, they're not as pretty.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's very interesting.
Now these were actually made by a guy called Matt Todd, and he was actually one of the very early bases things. He even knew James Casbolt. And his biggest customer for these were the RAF.
Yes.
Well,
they do work.
Yeah. And this is a sort of a Silbury Hill one, and we might get on to talk about that's very similar to Silbury Hill. This is a sort of a more, and then this is an almighty heavy magnet, which is really difficult to get off. Makes that a lot lighter. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason why we were putting a magnetic field. I'll do that again. Bloody hell.
It amplifies everything.
It means that there's actually iron in that. So this will go, and that's
awesome.
So anyway, this is actually what you do if you want to fish in the canal for treasure. You put that down and pick bicycle things up or whatever. I don't know. So I'll put that out of the way. And so how did you get together with Maria while we're sort of talking about Maria? And then we can talk about you.
Oh, I'd love to talk about Maria. In 2014, Carrie interviewed her, and I probably listened to that interview at probably your Basis project.
My God. Yes, that would have been roughly that, 2014. That was my first proper conference.
It was fascinating. I really listened to it over and over again. I had been making the pyramids already at that time, and I just felt such an affinity that I asked, a friend was going there. I said, go take a class with this woman if you're in England, close to Avebury. and I gave her a pyramid to give to Maria early on, long time ago. So
Wow.
she loved it. And then I sent her a few things for her to use and charge, because you know how she is so generous with her knowledge and light to the benefit of all.
If you
Gaia,
go to
plants, people.
Maria's house, she will meet you with swords in battle dress of a Goth, I think. God, better get that right. If you
Yeah, don't mess
disagree
with
with her, she's got these huge swords. She can slice you into 15 slices in seconds and then charge you for making the mess.
There you go. Well, she's got it down.
But she's got these really wonderful ceremonial swords and a huge pyramid and some absolutely wonderful stuff.
I made that pyramid.
You did?
The big
Whoa,
one, yeah.
Whoa, wow.
In fact, I was putting pyramids to grid the planet. Someone that I trusted, a spiritual teacher, said, you want to put them in 4 key locations. And every time I walked past that pyramid, it was probably 2016, 2017, that I kept hearing Maria Wheatley. So that pyramid kept telling me she wanted to go there. So I just surprised her. And it's great in her house. It's the only one like it. It's an celestial quartz, which
now,
is...
Now, explain all that. Explain what's in these pyramids. What's the big deal? Okay, they look very pleasing, but you've got a science in there somewhere?
Well, I based it on Wilhelm Reich's work and Carol Croft. There was Dawn and Carol Croft in 2000.
I don't know them. Could you explain who they are?
They were people messing with Orgone, and she was inclined to say, let's put quartz crystals in there. And they started basically the gifting. They would make those tower busters, throw them in burnt out forests.
Yeah, that's what's actually in this other thing. They note something. Yeah, the other one I just showed. I'm not going to get down and get it. And that's what's in the alleged pyramid in Croatia, or is that one as well?
I don't know.
Maybe a big ceramic Bosnian pyramid.
I actually like that guy. So that Sam.
I've left him off at the airport. Mick.
He's very knowledgeable. He is very, very bright man. In any event, so this combination of crystals and metals somehow is in the resin. The resin for me is the amplifier of the crystals. So I think
that's because when it sets, it compresses.
That's right. And so it amplifies.
Yeah.
And then the metals, it's kind of like yin and yang, the two opposites. I mean, Reich was interested in sex. I mean, when he was a child, he walked in on his mother with a stepfather or something. And it, I guess, affected him because the early part of his life, he was interested in healing and how sex gets perversions and how kids can release different emotions trapped. And then he got into the orgasm and how that was a great generator of life. Well, we're in it. We're in this soup. But right now we have something else trying to supersede the natural creation. In fact, I think right now we're in a massive war on all of creation. It's not just against humans. This is against the planet, possibly the solar system. I don't know. I'm only here.
Well, this term anti-life. These people, these creatures who are, I mean, we're getting pretty close to the point of what's happening right now. This war of dark matter. Is that what you're talking about? Black-eyed people? No?
That might be an expression of it. Jay Widener talks about a turning of the ages, but I think there's something actually trying to slip in between the turn of the ages.
Yes.
There's something in between trying to eke in. And I do think that a lot of the ET visits, from my experience in Vegas and my research, are the good ones are coming back in time, because whatever happens here needs to be altered, because it's going to affect many more dimensions in the future. This is my personal belief.
Well, do we want to really drill down into that and really?
No, up to you. Do you?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go where you want to go in that journey, and why you're doing what you're doing.
Well, in 2012, I was a photographer in New York for 20 years, and left New York right before the crash. I kept seeing, there was something bad was coming, and I had to get out. So I couldn't get anything going in Vegas or in Los Angeles at the time, because the country was in shambles. And I started messing around with the Orgone. I heard somebody threw Orgone into the ocean and the dolphins came. And at the time, I was being bombarded by frequencies. I kept hearing the high pitch. I know some people think that that's alien contact. For me, I understood being in New York at 9/11 with tons of research that actually the dark, military, whatever, is weaving frequencies in the cell towers that they have mapped over 19 minimum at the time that I knew. I cannot find that paper anywhere, but they had mapped at that time 19 different frequencies that registered with emotions. And so I didn't want to be controlled by that.
In World War II, when the British were playing around with radar and gigahertz microwave frequencies, they found out a lot of this stuff. They just kept quiet about it.
That's right. They wanted to perfect it.
The low frequency modulation of extremely high frequencies, which is why the mobile phone companies don't need to do any research on this, because they know what it does. That's why we haven't done any research on this.
Well, that's
because they know if you modulate those things, it will cause all the effects that you're talking about. That's why they're doing it.
Hear that? If you can hear it, in my understanding, you're not being controlled by it. But nevertheless, I was aware they were doing it. So when I learned about this,
getting that right now. Actually, I'm getting a little high frequency anyway.
Well, for me, that means that it's separated from you. If you didn't hear it, then it would probably be working on you. Do you know what I mean? Hearing it is like a stopgap from it running in the background. It's
also like a rustling of tree leaves. You know, when you have that sort of white noise from trees, leaves blowing lightly in the wind, and then you hear it when there aren't any leaves on the trees.
No, I didn't, but I can sometimes in the morning, I can see that effect that you're talking about. I can see all the...
And what can you see?
I don't, I see like white noise in the mornings.
I mean, what's it like for you to see?
Oh, I don't know if I see it from the towers. I don't know if I'm looking at matter or if it's frequency, but it just, if you a TV screen, old school, when you had it on the wrong channel, but it's not so black and white. It's more just whites and grays, that, movement. Anyway, I just think it's interesting. It's like the Matrix in a way.
Yeah, well, no, this is all very important, what you're saying. So continue.
I don't know. To me, it's just, so when I heard that you could throw it in the ocean, I thought I would just make it as a hobby. But I'm very perfectionist with things that I make. So I kept working on it. People wanted to buy it. It evolved into this business. But in 2012, I had a strong urgency that originally I was making these for the birds, the bees, the plants, creation. It wasn't for humans, but I wanted to make it pretty. So I thought, I'll make like house jewelry. Yeah. And everybody will get a benefit from having this in their house. People that don't even know what it does will actually have a little bit of harmonics, because for my understanding at my age, research and experience combined, crystals are windows of light that actually help access and bring through the higher dimensional frequencies onto the planet. And she is always growing them. So it's like, yes, we don't want to deplete areas entirely because they're there for a reason, pockets of crystals, but she's always making them. This is a creation planet. So I'm very connected to her, like Maria. I think that's one of the bonds, that she's very connected to Gaia. I think this planet is incredible. Well, so I started with urgency, and then some of the higher realms I felt wanted me to put symbols in these to really amp up the.
So you've gone from being you've been fashion model, photographer?
No, I was a photographer. I didn't like being in front of the camera. I did it for family business. No, but it refined my eye. Being a photographer refined my eye for contrast, color, shape, shadow versus light. So I actually learned my vision doing that. First,
that's important. Now, did you learn how to take photographs when you had film, or when you had? You see, that's when you've got to actually have the shot. You can't just go click, 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 click.
Well, you can click, click, but you don't know if you got it. You don't know until you see the film. You have to. So you had Polaroids then, right? And
well, that's about
I I still have all those cameras. People came around wanting to buy the camera. I just couldn't part with them, and I still have film, but I'm sure it's not going to come out quite. Who can even process? I think that film cameras will capture different things than digital. Someone had told me that Polaroids capture orbs as a vortex, as opposed to digital catching them as orbs. I don't know. Circles, spheres.
I had a very, very good series of cameras, which were actually cell phones. The Samsung S4 with a glass lens on it. Well, I mean, they all have glass lenses, but and I found one of our friends is called Jane, and anyway, this was at a party and birthday party, and lots of orbs. I got photographs of a big orb with two small ones going down the whole table. So as I sort of followed them, they were in each shot as they moved the whole way down the table. And actually, one of them went and sat on the back of one of my friends' blonde hair, and then came along, and they just then went out the window and went on their way. But I got all the ladies sat on this massive, really wide sofa, and they sat on that wonderful shot, and up above them, this was in the household cavalry, so they had this massive painting of the horses in the stables and things. This is something about maybe 20 feet wide, or some huge painting, one of those huge things. And there are a number of orbs in that painting, in that picture. So I showed that to people, and that was very interesting. And then I showed them later on, look at these pictures of, I'm going to switch this off, of so-and-so and Jane and all that. And the orbs had moved in the photograph.
Right, I believe it.
Now, have you had that experience? And in fact, eventually, they left the photograph and were no longer in there. They'd had their time. I
haven't taken any, but I have seen, believe it or not, I'll come out with here in the bases where I would never say this anywhere else. I did have it. That's right. That's perfect. I did see, I woke up, I had, being in Vegas and with all these pyramids, I used to make it in my house, and I had a lot of activity, and I would wake myself up because I, did not, it was like PTSD. So I was a very light sleeper, and there was a glass being about, 3-4 feet high, maybe 3.5 feet high. And I don't freeze anymore. I can break through that frozenness, the fear. And I lunged for it, and it turned into an orb about this big and slowly went out the window. And I even tried to swat it. It didn't matter. It went at its own speed out the window. So I saw that with my eyes open. And so I would say that they're beings from my personal experience.
Yeah. Well, one of the stories which was recounted by Matt a long time ago was he had his Orgone device working and there. Uh-huh. But he also had a Tesla coil, which was just operating. And what was happening was that the pyramid started to sort of magnify this field of energy. And he had an experience where he saw he saw two of them standing there. But whatever the pyramid was doing with this Tesla energy, they were screaming and twisting and couldn't take it. And they cleared off.
Oh, wow. So those were negative ones. Interesting.
Yes.
I didn't think this was I realized this was not a negative, although I've had experience with 3 different types of negatives.
If you want to talk about that, you're more than welcome.
Let's keep going, and then we can circle back. But I'm happy to do that if you want. But the orbs, you're talking about the orbs. I don't think they're all bad, but what's interesting, so they couldn't take the frequency, basically. As you were telling that story, I wondered if having the Tesla coil kind of just made it available for you to see them as well. Like, they're all there. It's just that we can't see them. So interesting. I think that Orgone is everywhere. I think the earth it's just the positive energy. It's just that there's such an onslaught of whatever's coming in between and bringing, like, your beloved David Icke, who I learned a lot from him early in the 90s and still will listen to him. I mean, there is something else.
Well, he's
with
managed to
agenda.
get the books out there and get to a much wider demographic than the average sort of person. He's in no way could be described as average, that's for sure.
No, he's brought a lot of great things to the planet. It helps a lot of people. So anyway, this is Orgone is everywhere. This is just an amplifier. I consider the pyramids an amplifier. And for anyone that if there's anyone listening, you could put like a silver plate or a silver plated metal and put a crystal on top. And that is a layer. It's a softer, more subtle, but people can do this with what they have in their house. I mean, I was reviewing some of the notes I had got about Reich. And where was that? Okay, so when he did in 1940, he made those accumulator, but the materials were plywood, rock wool, and sheet iron. And he measured it was 3 to 5 times stronger orgone energy inside the box as outside the box. Now that is before we had cell towers.
But
well, I
anyway,
remember you brought up the black mirror, black screen back at, I think it was 2017, 2018, and I had a massive aha moment. I knew that what you were saying was exactly true, that there is something on the other side of this,
no.
which we know in the physical is the NSA or the data collection, but there's something else going on.
And I think there's something in this. There's something about creating non-photonic life versions of us, and that could be the dark side pulling us. There's something in that. I mean, it gives me, you've just sort of had a bit of a chill. I've had, maybe there's something about that.
There is something about that.
Because why have two shadows? Now, there's all sorts of things about the optics and the prime focus of the LED and why it's only got the light. See, LED light is a bit like the light from electric eels. There's luminous light and there's phosphorescent light, and those are different lights, different ways.
So an original organic shadow and a secondary shadow that's being created possibly in that field. Yes. Well, they've captured so much of us as we use all these machines.
Yes.
So who knows?
Dark matter life. What about that? Harold Count-Thaler mentioned a lot of things. One of his great phrases was eating our biophotons, our biophotonic energy. And then the planet has day and it has night. So we have an equal time for non-photonic life to exist in this world as much as we depend on photonic light. We look at things, we are in the light. All the plants that you see are growing up out of the darkness of the ground into the light. They're all striving and looking for the light, for the energy from the biophotons.
They do need their rest. So I think it's a perfect balance, or we wouldn't be here.
Which is why having street lights on all over the place and these really bright lights are causing stress to trees and things. Are not able to get there.
It's a problem, and I don't trust anything going on right now. I don't trust not a one thing. Not a one thing.
It's never made for our benefit.
No, it isn't. And they're putting purple ones here. And it's interesting because they're saying people that have a weird substance flowing through their bodies, it becomes highlighted. So you can see like a black light.
So are you saying that those lights are actually ultraviolet?
Well, they're purple, and people were filming themselves and they could see their veins were becoming.
Yeah, it's ultraviolet. Yeah.
So I think that was related to the last 2 years specifically. So
that will burn your retinas out.
Well, I wonder if they're doing the car lights because this is all part of the, for the AI auto.
Yeah, I mean, this phone here, this godforsaken bloody phone, which I don't have a good word to say about it. I've only had to get it the last couple of weeks. The OLED lights, the OLED screens of these types of phones, I won't show the manufacturer. All I know is that all of them are the same. Have a very high blue spectral energy coming out of these phones, which is very damaging to the retina.
Well, two of the biggest things that they've seen in hospitals in the last 10 years are blindness and eye damage from the phones, and also liver stuff from all the tattoos that people are not doing cleanses. So the dyes and the inks and the colors need to be circulated out, but it's just filtering over and over through your liver. But there's so many things going on. This is in the 20s and 30s and 40s.
See, one of the things that was noted at a conference, Super Soldier Summit conference run by Lorien Fenton way back in 2013, which is the first time I met Max and Sarah and the whole team, a whole lot of it. It was sort of like a really strange Beatles moment from the 60s, like it was sort of weird, this sort of group of people. Was that they were talking about synthetic eyes.
Right.
Synths. And
well, that could help some people that were blind. I mean, there's a good side and a bad side. I had met Lorien also in early 2015, and she actually helped me a lot with, she gave me some really good information. So I appreciate her. Yeah.
Well,
the synthetic eyes.
Continue on about this. This is all interesting.
Well, the flip side of this is when I made these originally because I felt this was coming. The flip side is there is a way out, and there is a way. The real way to change everything is to clear your DNA and start letting the light come in through you. And no matter what I try, that's always the answer to change everything. And there is a way to clear your DNA. You know, stop creating trauma. That's the main way, actually, is to work on yourself and stop creating trauma. So I know I shifted over, but the DNA is under assault. I'm sure that this has something to do with everything. It's the antenna.
Yes.
But there is a way to do it.
So explain that in detail. How do you do this? How do you proceed?
Well, the reason I know this is I had an experience in New York in 2002. I went to some kind of healing thing that was going on. And as I was lying on the ground, I had Ganesh dancing on my forehead. And then I saw myself going through this like roller coaster through white screens.
Explain how you got on the ground and what was that thing you're talking about on your forehead? What?
Ganesha, the god of abundance in Hindu, the elephant god. So
I of course knew that. I'm just asking that question for others who may not.
I went to a healing. I laid down to experience it more in a room with a bunch of other people. I have no idea what anyone else was doing. I was feeling very blissed out. I saw the Hindu god Ganesh dance on my forehead. And then I saw myself, and this is important because there's a physical aspect. I'm not just taking you around. I saw myself going through like this roller coaster of loops through white screens, like white frosted window panes, one after the other after the other. And okay, fine, felt great, go home, go look, wash my face, brush my teeth. My eyes had changed color. My eyes were probably 5 shades lighter. They were like close to a Caribbean blue. It was crazy. And I kept going back into the bathroom and checking. And it was so bizarre because I thought I was having a break. I couldn't understand. I called a friend to meet me so that I had a witness. And I knew somebody would say, yes, which they to this day will say, I don't know, that was weird, but that was true. So later on, maybe it was 2013, I was listening to Red Ice Radio.
Remember those guys? They really did a fantastic job. I don't know if they're still going. Okay.
I don't either, but it was fantastic. You're right. That's the perfect word. So he had Ken Rolla on, who works with Orgone, and Ken Rolla was talking about how the genetic experiments they were performing on fruit flies, and how every 7th generation, the DNA would flip back to the original. Like they couldn't get the CRISPR technology to stick. And I had an epiphany moment that related back to 2002. And I thought, and then I heard, trauma, and all the energy work I had studied was clearing emotional traumas, and how, for example, in theta healing, you can go into the genetics, and it can be generations back that you have an affliction now from some kind of emotional or trauma from your family. So I thought, holy crap, fruit flies don't have really a lot of trauma. I mean, what's the trauma? They're not being emotionally, so they can flip back.
Well, don't they only live about a day or so they can?
I don't know, but to me, whatever.
So you can see that really quickly in their generations.
So I thought, okay, divine source is always trying to come in. And we just have to, and it's getting harder and harder for us to main. Part of it is we can't focus, we're distracted, we're traumatized constantly. And so if we can just make it halfway, I think that there's a great healing that can rinse out all the DNA. And I think that's really important right now. I think it's important for people to have that hope and that knowledge. And that's probably how masters are made, is, clearing out your crap.
Well, the seventh son of a seventh son, that kind of thing.
I don't know how. It depends on if you have constant trauma or not, which we do. That's a thing. We are constantly being we're here. I mean, it's crazy. The assaults are crazy. I mean, if you look at the news or drive down the street, people driving in their cars with masks on still. So people are highly traumatized. And how can they rectify anything in their being from that state?
Well, today I had a cup of coffee at Avebury, and the people from the National Trust organization, which keeps these places, they're all wearing masks. I wanted oat milk in my coffee. Now, the only reason I want oat milk in my coffee is basically as a bit of a joke, because people wouldn't expect me to have oat milk in my coffee. And then everybody would think, hey, oh, wow, he's really enlightened or something like that.
Well, it is good for you. So that,
soy isn't. But the oat, and then I get all these questions. I got bombarded. Of course, it's coming from behind this muzzle. I call them muzzles. And you can't hear a word that they're saying, but they wanted, are you susceptible to this, susceptible to that? And I said, look, I just wanted oat milk with the damn coffee. And then I just said, well, forget the damn oat milk. I'm just going to have it was just crazy.
It is
fear.
Yeah, it's not good. I used to address people, why are you still wearing a mask? Don't you know it's not good? But they're doing it because they want to, and they don't want to hear it from me. So I now just bless them and wish them on their way. I wish they'd stop, because it's actually part of the problem. If everybody stopped this nonsense, but that's not the highway.
I think you've got a lost cause there,
But so the point is that your DNA can be, the clearer our DNA is, the more divine energy, the more sacred we can bring in, as opposed to the profanity going on all levels. And we can become walking orgone generators. Imagine
so
that.
So how do you propose people do that? I mean, do these devices that you have, these beautiful devices, we can talk later about why each one is the way it is, but how do people clear their DNA? How do you see that happening?
Well, first you have to want to and intend it. The pyramids can definitely help, for the reason that they create a harmonic space. There's like a vortex of fractal harmonic energy constantly coming off. So you're already in a better space. So that would help. Meditation, healing work, kindness, gratitude, all these positive things. But they could just go into nature and put their feet in the ground, in the dirt.
Yes.
Just stand there. Pay attention to something beautiful. Do something good for someone else without needing a thank you. All these little things we were taught all work.
I mean, now there's a tremendous move towards this recycled plastic clothing, which produces all these little razor sharp, horrible dust of particles. And
I don't know. I mean, will there be that many people to buy them soon? Are we really going to have, how many people are going to be left standing with the way things are going? So I'm thinking, everybody, let's get spiritual.
Well, that's a pretty heavy statement.
No, come on, it's true. You say it too.
Well, I mean, I can say it, right? Because I'm posing these hypothetical questions to simulate a debate and a discussion. But you've just come straight out with it. What do you mean by that? Are you pretty not happy about it.
I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it because I don't think it was
From your
happening.
perspective, in the enlightened state of Nevada,
It's a beautiful state, actually.
yeah, I think it's great. The times I've been there, and I was able to, there were some times I've been able to actually get out of the city and drive around with a friend of mine, and we could see those. Even flying over, I've got a friend, former lady friend in Palm Springs, and there'd be this little cloud, these little jet, which were, no, it was actually a twin turboprop, I think, and it would sort of hover over fly over the mountains, and that's really dangerous with all the different turbulences that you get when those mountains, and it's an amazing. It's actually a landscape that looks as if it was once very wet.
It was underwater. There are seashells if you dig down, absolutely. So this rose up, especially in Arizona. In Holbrook, where the Hopis are, my mom has property, and if you dig into the dirt, just a couple inches, you find all kinds of shells. Yes.
And that's 5,000 feet up, isn't it? Sedona, all
right
that?
now.
Yeah.
Right now it is, but
Yeah.
who knows what it was. I mean, Death Valley is one of the lowest places. It's all salt. Certainly it was water. I'm sure there's been all kinds of stuff going on here. But yeah, I'm not happy that people are being manipulated. I don't like it.
I mean, for instance, a friend of mine was going to go to, I think, UFO MegaCon. He was going to speak there. I think it was cancelled anyway because I think it was just going on too long. But I don't know anybody who wants to fly to the States.
I don't want to get on a plane. I just don't want to put a mask on.
I mean,
it's annoying. I don't want to give them their win personally, but I lose because I don't get to go anywhere. But I don't want to give them a win.
I mean,
So
everybody here is going to Mexico. They're having a holiday in Mexico, for God's sake.
Well, I mean, everyone needs to make their choices.
I mean, rather than go to the States and go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I've never known anybody here going to Mexico before.
Mexico's great.
Yeah.
The food is fantastic. Who doesn't love Mexico? As long as you're not by the border where all the cartels are. If you can get in, you're in good shape.
Well, let's talk about this thing about, I mean, why are you so...
Driven?
Yeah.
Driven on this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just comes from inside me. I've always been like this. I was always ornery. Like that rebel gene Carrie talks about,
Explain that. I mean, were you a tomboy, to use a very old, out-of-date phrase?
I was a tomboy. I'm perfectly happy with politically incorrect, exact language.
Oh,
Please,
my God.
thank you. I refuse to submit to that. So I am not woke, everybody. So if you are, just shop somewhere else. Thank you. Or you can come here and get some good stuff, but don't put it on me. That's it.
Well, since you've mentioned the shop, and since you've mentioned all this beautiful stuff you've got behind you, why don't we talk about that?
Okay. What do you want to? What? Yeah.
Well, what about these beautiful pyramids? I mean, we've shown this, right? And I'm very proud of this. I got it in a beautiful box.
Yeah.
And we did talk about Maria, and she's fantastic. I think she is fantastic, actually. I helped cover I provided the TV stuff for Megalithomania, and she was the only woman on stage. There was, I think, one other lady who was actually speaking as a thing, and I think Maria's a fighter in the field of, all the guys, it's not their fault, but, it's good to see that. So tell us more about these things that you're doing.
I originally made these again because I felt there was a war in all creation, and it was my way to do something.
Well, there is.
So I make plates too, and these are like mandalas, and they're great under the bed. People have put them after surgery and they recover. I did an experiment when I first made these. I used to do consignment to little stores all over the US, and they were so lovely, these people. So I made these plates. I sent them to a few key places and asked them to experiment with it and have people put their bare feet on it and write me back. And I got a lot of interesting things. One lady had not felt her feet in 18 years from diabetes, and she sat in the chair in a dark room with her bare feet on these for 15 minutes, and she could feel her feet for the first time. So she wanted to book more, which I was perfectly fine with. That was so basically.
What's the design? What inspires you to put that particular design rather than another design? I mean, where does that come from?
I don't know. Just maybe my, symmetry. There's beauty in symmetry. Schematics, right? There's a frequency.
I mean, there is a sort of like a sacred geometry there. I don't like the term sacred geometry. It's science. And those are quartz crystals around the edge.
I consider them mandalas, but I originally made these for people to put their bag of groceries on or their plate to, roto-rooter the DNA of the food in a way.
Yeah.
Sorry, that it all comes back to that roto-rootering and bringing energy up. The thing is about frequency, high frequency and low frequency, when they come together, it doesn't do this. It's not temperature. It does this. So it felt like a master walks in the room or a crowd. The people come up and they're higher. The master doesn't come down. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, without the high frequency coming down. You go into nature. The beauty of that, it doesn't diminish even if you're in a bad mood. No, your consciousness raises up to meet the beauty, however that is. And the more you do it, the more you focus on raising your consciousness, the higher you'll come to closer up to that high frequency. But it doesn't do this. It's opposite of what people think. There's not a midpoint. There's a raising.
Well, this is what some of the other people are saying about this Orgone stuff. Is it brings things up. The negative is pushed away. For want of a better term,
it kind of just becomes meaningless. The negativity becomes meaningless. So that's why forests grow back. So my mom had me send it to her cousin in Chicago, and he has a cactus that hasn't grown in 15 years, and he put a pyramid there, and he said, my mom, he said, this thing grew 5 inches in 6 months. It hasn't grown in all this time. And so the thing is, all these things would happen, but because that in between is coming in, it's kind of diminishing. That secondary shadow, the Wi-Fi, the frequencies coming in are so strong that it is affecting. So the earth needs a little help. We need a little help. Creation needs a little help. So I don't know.
I think it's down to what an individual can do with whatever they have in their particular skill set. If they can do their little bit, it makes the whole thing work so much better.
Exactly. 100%. That is exactly true. So I've always loved rocks since I was little, and I've wanted to make things. My meditation is in making things, is in production. So I can sit there and meditate, and that's great, but I actually find that working through something, cooking, gardening, accomplishing something, moving through, I am in a clear mind state. So making these is a meditation for me.
So if people wanted to get a pyramid, I mean, what design or how would they know which is the one that they need? I mean, what you've got behind there is lots of different, designs. I mean, what do people know about what they?
I get it. I get what you.
Why get this one rather than get that one?
Okay.
How do you know? How do they know?
Thank you for asking and sharing all this information. People email me, and I always tell them, pick the one you love most, because I list all the meanings of the crystals. And if you get caught up in the monkey mind of what you think you need, usually what you need, you're not even aware of. It's behind all of that. You're just dealing with a symptom. So pick the one you love your most, and you're probably going to clear out those symptoms anyway, because you get the behind issue.
So is it the first feeling you have?
I mean, people just have to pick the one they love. I can't tell.
It's up to them.
Yeah, it's up to them. And size matters, and it also doesn't matter. If you're around a ton of cell phone towers, I would not just do pyramids. I would do Faraday material. I would do the copper mesh. I would do unplug everything. I would get out of there. personally, but not everyone can. So you can remediate. But
Well,
this
we
is
found
also
way back when they were bringing in this thing called Tetra, when the towers were still analog, I think. And Tetra was it was when they were producing communication systems with very sharp, very sharp-edged waveforms, which cause a lot of damage to people. It seems that they found just making, the cookie ones. You just put some of this material and just make little
the tower busters.
cupcakes.
Those are great.
The
Yeah.
little cupcakes. In other words, they're very simple to make, and people just run and throw them that seemed to really work.
Yes, I would do. These are not for that, but I
Yeah.
suggest to people that they go. You can get like a dozen of them. They're called tower busters. You can find somebody that does it, and you can put it on your roof and the four corners of your house, and do it with intention.
Yes.
When you place that there, first of all,
yeah.
clear it, amplify it, make sure there's energy, because a lot of these things, there's no energy in the pyramid. Doesn't mean it can't be charged up and operated. It just means it's like a dead battery. So just charged up. So put it and create a grid, point to point, and imagine it, see it. Don't just see it, continue to see it, hold that thought, and that is real. So you'll grid your property. Those are great. I do not make those. These are
well, these were things that were just easy to make, and you just made half a dozen of them or a dozen, and you could just bum, and chuck them.
That's right.
And
just for protective
yeah,
space stuff, just use your safety gear for this. Because
so how do people get in touch with you, and where do they find you, so to speak?
Thank you. Light the Light, LITETHELIGHT.com. Light the Light. So it's an action. Thank you.
And
lightthelight.com.
what sort of medium would they look for you in? I mean, how would they? Where do you appear?
What, like here? You mean the website? Just on the web. I do an online store, and I have some stores in the U.S.
But where are those stores sort of located? If you were walking
U.S.
down.
If you'd have to be in the U.S. and fewer stores now, because they're just not able to survive. So that is sad. So
you actually have, you have product in a physical store you can walk in to.
Yeah, Florida. I think there was one lady, Czech Institute has a whole series that I custom made for Paul Czech. So people can get them there, and not really international. They'd have to just come to my site. But Florida, California,
well, Florida and California, slightly different places in the United States.
Well, those are stores I have. I'm sorry, those are stores. I'm trying to think of the stores in New York. The bigger cities, the stores have held on. The smaller cities, the stores have not held on, sadly.
Which is this whole attack on private enterprise and individuals and things like that.
That's right. So we thank those people that did have the store, because they helped a lot of people. But thank you so much, Miles. I hope people could get a feeling from me and the product in a positive way. And
well, it's beautiful. I'm very, very happy that you've got this. And I hope we don't cut off in about 3 seconds. But but
I thank you, because I've learned a lot from you, Miles. I've really learned a lot. I've been listening to you. This is a great honor for me. I wanted to let you know that you've inspired me, and I agree with a lot of what you say. It's really out there, and so am I. But it makes complete sense to me. So I really appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
I've met you through Maria, and she's a great girl and with attitude, and it's good fun. Well, thank you very, very much, and it's been good, and from Wiltshire in England. So thank you very much.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.